I would also like to state that the SARMs, RAD140 and MK677 were substances I had never taken before, and my body reacted very well to the substances. Sadly, during this process, I did notice my hairline began to recede. What's up guys, Derek, moreplacemorenews.com. Today we're going to be talking about Brandon Harding again. So I did a video about a week ago or so talking about his off-season stack and kind of giving my analysis of how it was designed, what I would do to change it, if anything, just my overall thoughts. And it was pretty reasonable. I would recommend checking out if you want to get the breakdown, but the overall reaction was it was relatively reasonable. He ended up commenting on the video and actually clarifying some new information. He just wrote down his whole stack, which good on him. Well, he actually clarified that the GH was before cardio. And you know, obviously you could leverage the lipolysis via that. And then he has 2 IU pre-bed, which, you know, made a lot of sense. And that was one of the things I commented on. Another thing he mentioned is how he does use Arimidex 2 times per week. Like, I assumed because he left it out of the video that he wasn't using one. So my commentary was based on no AI. So the fact that he's incorporating an AI, I kind of updated my analysis, and I actually just commented in the comment section. If you can see, I said, so there is an AI. At that point, personally, I would look at pushing the Primo harder rather than pushing test up to the point that you forced yourself to use an AI. But that's just my opinion. And then he said, thanks bro, pretty much. And yeah, there's a bunch of comments in here. Most of them are saying like, good on you. And some of them are just like just shitting on him. But that's to be expected when you're not on your own channel and you comment on somebody else's video that's commentating on you, I guess. The thing that I mainly want to talk about in this one is Greg's video that he did on the same subject, basically. Not the video that Greg did, like his analysis or anything, but more so the comment that Brandon left on Greg's video that Greg ended up pinning. So Brandon said, "Hi Greg, great video, really enjoyed it and made extremely relevant points. I'd like to mention that the overall goal for the next 4 months isn't to bulk up to get fat and look like a bag of milk. Hence why I said, pack on as much muscle as possible. I had a great experience being coached by you. Although a lot of the reason I did gain 15 pounds in 3 months was because of your strategical off-season plan. I would also like to state that the SARMs, RAD140 and MK677 were substances I had never taken before, and my body reacted very well to the substances. Sadly, during this process, I did notice my hairline began to recede slightly, which did scare me. This could have been for a lot of reasons, but as soon as I stopped taking the SARMs, the receding stopped. I was also very uncomfortable in the substances as they made me hold a great deal of water retention, resulting in extreme lower back pumps. So that would have been the MK677, not the RAD, if this is what we're even referring to the 2 compounds still. This is also one of the reasons I gained a lot of weight at the beginning of our plan. And by the way, as far as hairline receding, that's the RAD, not the MK. So the MK is the significant amount of bloat, and that's where I've talked about many times how it's not uncommon during MK usage to, I just noticed my fucking hair is not even in the frame here. There we go. I've noticed a significant amount of times with MK usage, or I've noted, you can expect a gain of like 5 to 10 pounds of intracellular water retention within your first 1 to 2 weeks. Like, that's not uncommon for using like a 20 milligram plus dosage. Some people don't get that, some people do. And in concurrent, that's not even a word, concurrently with that, you'll note that your ghrelin levels, or the stimulation of ghrelin receptors, I should say, are artificially agonized by the MK677. It's a ghrelin receptor agonist, so it makes you way hungrier and you eat more on it. Therefore, you gain weight way faster because you're just way prone to overeating, because it just makes you insatiable, essentially. So it's not very, you know, strange to me to see this comment about him holding a great deal of water retention. That's very expected in an off season with MK typically. However, the receding hairline with the RAD is what I wanted to touch on, because I still get questions on how to implement RAD in cycles for guys who are actually worried about hair loss and they're using SARMs because they don't want to get hair loss. And this is something that goes overlooked way too much. I'm going to finish this thing. I did also enjoy your point about GH, although the importance of this, so many people were critiquing Brandon's pronunciation of GH. They were like, what the fuck is GH?
2 IUs of GH.
And I say stuff pretty funny sometimes too, I bet, but his pronunciation in particular, apparently a bunch of people had a problem with.
And night, I'll have 2 IUs of GH in the morning.
Although the importance of this may be minuscule, along with very little effect, myself and Callum believe it will help me over the next 4 months, as well as all my competition prep. This is because Greg says he doesn't think he needs GH, which is a fair enough point. I'm currently consuming 4,800 calories, definitely in a generous surplus, but my body is holding up well on this amount. I still haven't gained any unnecessary body fat, which is obviously the goal. You're a true advocate in maintaining a lean physique in the off season. This is something I'm trying to create with Callum. I also do not believe that you need to bulk up and get fat in the off season to make progress, hence why being 10 pounds heavier than I was 3 weeks ago, I'm still in good condition. Again, really enjoyed the video, mate. Hope you're well, loving the new place. So the RAD. This is a compound that is commonly stated by people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, that has a 90-to-1 tissue selectivity, which would make it the most tissue selective anabolic agent of all time, probably. Because even if you look at primobolan, if you look at nandrolone, if you look at anavar, their tissue selectivity can range in Hirschberger assays upwards of like 20 to 30 to 1 or something, like at best, from what I recall. And in practical application, in humans, this doesn't always play out. With RAD in particular, even if you somehow extrapolated these fucking rodent models to figure out that it had a 90-to-1 tissue selectivity, in humans, in practical application, it does not play out this way whatsoever. And something that often goes overlooked too is the RAD140 clinical study, even on humans, the phase 1 trial where they used some mega dose of it. I actually don't even recall what it was off the top of my head, but I did a video on it and I'll put a card up somewhere in here. So the clinical study is using like, I don't remember, it was like 100 to 150 milligrams a day or something, and it was, well tolerated. One thing you have to keep in mind though, in well-tolerated results, this is like a clinical endpoint to kind of say it's safe enough for use in application to treat some disease state, essentially. It doesn't necessarily mean it is, side effect free, and it's not. It significantly lowers SHBG, it has liver toxicity, there's a lot of things associated with it that aren't exactly side effect free, obviously. And even if you go back and look at the clinical studies on like Anadrol, Anavar, Primobolan, a lot of these are very well tolerated. Like Primobolan is well tolerated in dosages upwards of 1,200 milligrams in women. And I'll put a card up to that video if that sounds fucking insane to you. Sounds fucking, I do agree it sounds insane, but this is actually the highest well-tolerated dosage of anabolic androgenic steroids ever in clinical literature. It was 1,200 milligrams on women using Primobolan. So if Primobolan at 1,200 milligrams is well-tolerated, does that necessarily mean that RAD140 is, safe at the dosage used in the phase 1 clinical trial? No, it doesn't. So just because something well-tolerated doesn't mean it's safe, first of all. And if you want to delve further into the RAD, the first video I did on it, not the video covering the clinical study, but the first post I did on it way back, I don't know, a year or two ago on my channel, where I basically read off my article that I first made 2017 or something, and I basically deep dove into the compound in its entirety. It's the most comprehensive video on the entire internet on RAD140. I recommend you check that out, and I'll put a card up in the corner as well. Basically, it details exactly what you can expect. It goes into the tissue selectivity. It goes into the AR competition and what kind of effects it may have in androgen dependent tissues and whatnot. And it's a very interesting compound, honestly. It seems to have clinical promise in some applications, but causing hair loss. Well, you have to understand it's a potent AR agonist, and it binds with a pretty decent affinity for the AR, and it's designed to do so. And despite it being selective in its name, that only means it's supposed to be more tissue selective than testosterone, on paper at least. And in practical application, does it actually work out to be that way? Guys are using, 20, 30 milligrams plus of this stuff a day. Just because it's selective in a rat model, it doesn't mean it's more tissue selective in a human model. And above and beyond that, you still don't really know what is happening in each tissue. Like, there's different tissue selectivity does not necessarily indicate it's going to be hair safe, despite that being an extrapolation, a way we extrapolate what we can predict that something might or might not do. And in RAD140 practical application, it's not the case whatsoever. I can tell you guys right now, through the hordes of anecdotal experiences I have seen over the years personally, it's like the least hair safe SARM, with exception of maybe like S23. I always get asked about RAD140 because it's like a dry, crazy strength builder. It's very good for performance outcomes. It drives a decent amount of aggression, which is a red flag in itself if it's a SARM, because if it's super anabolic, it shouldn't be driving fucking aggression mechanisms. But it's just not hair safe. It's the like one of the least hair safe compounds. Even if you were to ask me, should I be using an like testosterone or RAD? Like I would literally be saying like, and not even considering the estrogen component or any of that. If you're just saying straight up which one's more hair safe, like you might be able to make an argument for test. And at least you can use finasteride to inhibit 5-alpha reductase. With RAD, there's nothing that you can stop its hair loss unless you had a potent anti-androgen and you're applying a fucking shit ton of it to your head. And even so, at that point, it's just not worth it. You're using so much of a drug to offset the side effects of a drug that already has unknown outcomes with RAD. So RAD is not hair safe, despite it being a SARM, despite it supposedly having the best anabolic to androgenic rating of all of the SARMs. In practical application, maybe in certain tissues in the body it might, but in the scalp in particular, it's fucking horrible, dude. I'll tell you right now, just stay away from it if you care about your hair. In Brandon's case, it's interesting because he's used a decent amount of shit, and the fact that he used RAD specifically, and that's the one he noticed this outcome from. Like he's using literally primobolan right now, which is fucking horrible for your hair, and he's using 600 milligrams of test, which is also fucking horrible for your hair. And he's noticing less hair loss now, supposedly, than he was on RAD. So that just goes to show how rough it is. And maybe you could argue it just like induced telogen effluvium, which is just, you know, temporary shedding. But honestly, dude, just anecdotally from the experiences I've seen time and time again, it is rough if you are prone to male pattern baldness at all. If you're immune, then yeah, you can probably get away with fucking anything, to be honest. But I mean, very few of us are immune to the point that we're going to make it to like 40, 50 plus without any noticeable thinning or recession. And in Brandon's case, if I recall correctly, I think his dad is bald. I think. I could be wrong on that, but he's fucking well on his way there if he's taking gear. So you would be best served by minimizing your exposure to the heavy duty androgens that are brutal for hair loss. So take from that what you will. Let me know what you guys think down below. Write down your comments and experience with RAD140 if you are prone to hair loss. Was it significantly worse on RAD than with other compounds? Any experiences probably help, you know, the community figure out just an overall consensus of certain compounds. So any and all comments are appreciated, and they help the algorithm too. So obviously I appreciate that. So thanks for supporting the channel growth by doing that and liking and hitting the bell, subscribing. Follow me on Instagram at moreplays_more_dates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts if you want to listen on audio instead of burn through your data. On YouTube, I recommend that. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with, video description below, my TRT clinic if you want to seek hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy in any context. Check it out. I'm not going to do a deep dive into what you can expect, but it's basically an assessment of your blood work. Imbalances or deficiencies are all addressed, and a personalized protocol will be made for you if warranted. And then from there, you can talk to the doctor over Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, and it's all shipped right to your door. You don't even need to leave the house except to do your bloods. So really convenient, way of the future in my opinion, and it is a way to optimize your health and vitality if you are somebody who would otherwise, if hormone intervention is warranted essentially, or any other, even pharma grade hair loss prevention is also provided through the clinic, as well as a myriad of other treatment options that are may be attractive to you. So I recommend checking that out if that interests you in any capacity. If you want to support the channel too, you can check out Gorilla Mind, my turnkey nootropic formulas for productivity, creativity, just basically staying locked in for more hours during the day, essentially. These are the formulas I designed throughout university and now into my working years to stay focused for longer hours, as well as Gorilla Mode, the pre-workout formula that is sweeping the industry. This is Gorilla Mode Classic, the hybrid formula with all of the NO precursors, hyperhydrating agents, plasma expanders, and the potent cognitive enhancing complex of nootropics and stimulants at all topped out dosages. If you want to compare that to the label of your current pre, I encourage you to do so. Go pull it out of the cupboard, pick it up, bring it to the fucking table, bring it to the toilet, wherever you're watching, and look at the label and compare it to ours. We are, bar none, the most potent pre-workouts in the industry, in my opinion. And moving on to Gorilla Mode Nitric, the stimulant-free formula. This has no stims whatsoever, obviously, and you can use it at any time of day, including nighttime. It's not going to ruin your sleep, and it has an even higher dose and wider array of different vectors to leverage the nitric oxide synthase pathway, as well as the hyperhydrating pathway, as well as even leveraging the angiotensin converting enzyme system in the body and reducing angiotensin 2, which results in the dilation of blood vessels and a reduction of blood pressure, which helps increase pump. Like, we have a myriad of different pathways by which you can achieve an even greater level of vasodilation and ridiculous pumps in this product that most other products aren't, you know, addressing. They address just nitric oxide, or they address hyperhydration. That's it. We're trying to leverage every single vector possible in this product, and it's all maxed out at dosages that are literally the top end of the clinical efficacious dosages, not just the minimum amount that yields a clinical endpoint. It is literally the topped out amount, like the 10 gram of L-citrulline without being inflated with malic acid. That is the most you're going to find anywhere. And then moving on to Gorilla Mode Stim, this is the stimulant only product, and it is inflated to an even more significant extent. It's basically Gorilla Mode on steroids essentially, except without any of the pump products. So it's way cheaper. So it's way more cost effective for those who just want a pure mental pre-workout, which has a double dose of L-tyrosine, double dose of Kana, increased dose of caffeine, increased dose of N-phenylethyl dimethylamine citrate, and it is more cost effective for those who either just want a cheaper pre, just want the mental performance without the other stuff, or a stim junkie and need to get a heavy hit to get that smash your head through the wall focus. So check that out if that interests you. Anything else I'm associated with, video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.